Hi friends, on the account of the World Epilepsy Day, I take immense pleasure in meeting you all via this online portal. Today, I'm going to discuss about an important scenario with respect to epilepsy among children. Epilepsy among children carries a greater weightage when compared to epilepsy among adults for the simple reason that children are growing both physically, mentally, and socially. And there are lots of achievements expected out of them. And definitely epilepsy in children is going to affect their performances and also their futuristic life. So broadly, I would like to classify epilepsy in children into two broader types. One is a simple epilepsy, another is a complicated one. The simple epilepsy is just one condition, that is a simple febrile seizure, which occurs among children aged between 6 months to 5 years of age. And it is because of poor neuronal myelination. That is, the nerves are covered by myelin, which helps in the conduction of the electrical discharges. So that does not happen completely before 5 years of age. And so those neurons are very tender and they are viable to, and they're very fragile and they are viable and they get influenced to different temperatures. So whenever a child lands up in high fever of about 101, 102 degree Fahrenheit, they are likely to have the potential to throw a convulsion. That is the tonic-clonic jerky moments. However, the good point in this is these things are by 5 years, they disappear by themselves. So which means that the development of the child, the brain as well as the physical development of the child is not being hampered because of these febrile seizures. And it is relatively very common among children. So we need not be worried much about that. On the hind fact, we need to be pretty cautious about some kinds of febrile seizures which may have a complicated base or which may have some organic base inside the brain which requires a long-term treatment. And similarly, the complicated epilepsies which occur before 6 months of age and after 5 years of age. I would like to be pretty cautious in my say, because all seizures which occurs between 6 months to 5 years of age should not be considered as febrile seizures unless and until it is diagnosed by the pediatrician or the neurologist as a febrile seizure. Now, the topic is not about febrile seizure. The topic is about like how much epilepsy is going to influence children in their development. See, what we need to understand is, like, what is this epilepsy? Epilepsy is an abnormal hypersynchronous electrical discharge. We know that brain functions through electrical discharges. So when there is an abnormal hypersynchronous discharge, naturally the concentration, memory, orientation, academic skills, everything is going to be affected in children. So when a child, when compared to a normal child, when a child who has epilepsy is encountered, these children face a great amount of difficulty in coping up in their academics, in moving with their peers, in any kind of ways, even social communicative skills or the play skills. And we tend to be, as parents, as teachers, as doctors, we tend to be extra cautious on these children, and we put them into we bring in so many limitations and restrictions to them, telling that like be cautious when they are traveling alone, not to allow them to drive a bicycle, learn how to drive a bicycle, not to allow them to involve in complicated outdoor sports such as swimming and all those things. This psychologically impacts the children, thinking that like they are inferior in performance to their peers, to their counterparts, to their fellow colleagues and friends because of this epilepsy. And secondly, because of this epilepsy, children have a great amount of physical and mental tiredness, which prevents them from studying up to the mark as compared to that of their fellow colleagues, which decreases their academic performance, and that again psychologically affects them. Socially, they tend to be like they feel a bit low on their confidence, and they tend to restrict or like keep them away from involving in activities such as cultural activities, sports, etc. In addition to that, we should also know that like the medicines which we prescribe for managing this epilepsy in children is also going to cause extreme drowsiness for them. So extreme tiredness and extreme drowsiness, not only in the night, though we give medicines, sometimes we are pretty cautious and we give them medicines which can be given in the night hours. But we need to remember that like these medicines do have their own share of adverse effects in the form of extreme somnolence, which is extreme sleepiness, that it even continues even during the daytime, and they tend to sleep in the class hours. And unless and until the teachers and the other people, the tuition teachers or the class teachers, are not updated about the child's condition and the medicines they are on, they are likely to be scolded and put to shame in front of their friends and their fellow peers, which in turn causes them to lose their confidence, to keep them shied away from many of the getting involved in very many activities. So that is another thing which we need to think about. So apart from being diagnosed with an epilepsy, we need to understand that epilepsy is not a disease, it is a disorder in many cases. So disorder can be brought into order. But on the contrary, epilepsy is being taught as a disease, which means people take an extra cautious approach on these children who are diagnosed with epilepsy and try to treat them as not so fit and they are diseased. So even giving them the extra care, like be cautious while walking, be cautious while climbing the stairs. It's okay even if you're not performing well in the studies. Like I know that you can't perform well. These words might actually bring them low on confidence. So what should we do for upbringing of these children, both physically, mentally, socially, and academically, is that we need to make an early but a correct diagnosis of the child's condition by meeting the neurologist at the very early stage. For that matter, we need to understand that the child is having an epilepsy. Not that all children do throw convulsions, tonic-clonic movements, such as jerky movements of the limbs, and then we don't diagnose epilepsy. Even a simple absence seizure, that is, generally we see during the class hours that we comment, hey, I'm taking a class, I'm telling something and you're watching somewhere. What is happening? Where are you thinking? Where is your mind being engaged on? These are the words which we generally see in children. Beware that it can be a form of epilepsy, right? Which is called as an absence seizure. So we need to make a prompt early diagnosis of seizures in these children. Seizures is nothing but the epilepsy which I'm talking about. And we make a diagnosis, we confirm it, and we start them an apt treatment by giving them the anti-epileptic drugs. The correct choice of drug of choice should be given in the apt right dose for the right duration. If we treat them appropriately, along with psychosocial support, then I think most of the children can cope up. The psychosocial support should be from all departments, all sides, from family, from parents, from relatives, from kids and kins, from teachers, from friends. Everyone who are moving around should encourage them, should tell them, you can do it, but we also know that you need adequate amount of rest. You can come out of this problem very easily. Don't worry about the marks. We know that you are intelligent. You can involve in these games. Only thing is just be a bit cautious while getting involved in these games or these activities, not that you need to avoid them completely. And with a proper food, nutrition, and sleep hygiene, most of these children just grow up as normal kids, and they even excel better than the normal kids, and they come out of these problems very easily with all these lines of management, whichever I have said so far. Hope I was a bit fast in my speech, I think, but I have made things very clear to you about what are the problems generally children in epilepsy face with. Thank you. Wish you a epilepsy-free society very soon. Let the world become epilepsy-free very soon with all the technical advancements. For that, we need to enlighten our knowledge, and we need to remove all kinds of stigma around epilepsy. Treat epileptic children, epileptic adults as one among our own, because any one of us can throw an epilepsy or a seizure at any time of our life. It is not something which we are inheriting. It is not something which is a disease which has been spread contagious from person to person. It is a disorder. It can happen with a disturbed brain because of any cause. Wish you good luck. Thank you for your patience listening.